You ever wake up one morning thinking it's just another peaceful day by the lake, only to realize you're about to star in a full-blown neighborhood war? Yeah, that happened. It started on a Saturday morning, sun coming up, dock boards needing fixing, my Nikon slung around my neck like always, and suddenly here comes Diane Crowley marching across my property line like she's General Patton reclaiming lost territory. Behind her, three folks I'd never even seen, all shuffling awkwardly like they'd rather be anywhere else. Diane's finger shot out, pointing right at my grandma's old marina like she owned the place. Now I've spent 20 years photographing wolves and eagles defending their turf, but nothing prepares you for someone challenging you on your own land. Diane stopped about 10 feet away, arms crossed, sunglasses perched on her head just so. She smiled, but it was that kind of smile where there's no warmth behind it. You know what I mean? She started talking about community resources, about how this lake belongs to all of us, and how wouldn't it be wonderful if we could all just share. I put down my hammer, wiped my hands on my jeans, tried not to roll my eyes. This isn't a community resource, I told her. This marina's been in my family since 1968. The deed, the taxes, the boundaries. None of that has anything to do with the HOA. Diane tried to play it smooth, talking about legal nuances and community benefit clauses, swiping through her phone like she had some magic paperwork that said, "My property belonged to everyone." One of her guests, middle-aged khaki shorts, cleared his throat and admitted, "He didn't even realize it was private," said Diane. "Told them it was available for everyone." The other two just looked embarrassed. One staring at the water, the other avoiding my eyes. Diane wasn't letting up. She floated the idea of just weekends, maybe 6 hours a day. I shook my head. This marina isn't part of the HOA. I'm not looking for a fight, but I'm not opening up my property either. Her face tightened. She hinted that good neighbors find ways to cooperate. That's when I realized this wasn't a friendly chat. It was an ultimatum, all dressed up in soft words. They left finally, Diane calling out. That community spirit goes both ways, like I was the one causing problems. The silence after they walked off hit hard. This place, my grandma's old sanctuary, had always felt safe. She'd left it to me with instructions not just about property, but about dignity. She taught me how to wait for the right moment, how to notice what other people missed. Sitting there on the dock watching the dragonflies, I thought about the safe in my study, deed survey maps, title insurance, all in order, all legal. The HOA didn't even exist when my family bought this land. But Diane? She didn't care about facts, she cared about control. I'd seen this play out in nature, the alpha pokes first looking for weakness. Would I bend or hold the line? That's the question. 3 days later, I got an email from the HOA. Shared Amenity Access Marina Facility, that was the subject line. Formal as all get out. But the message was clear sign here, let everyone use your property just a few hours each day for the good of the community. There was a 3-page attachment liability waivers, permanent easement rights, the whole 9 yards. At the bottom, a signature line waiting for me to hand over my rights. Diane had written it herself, and all the board members were CC'd. No legal citations, just community spirit. I could have ignored it, but that only delays the storm. So I called Diane. She answered like she was already 5 moves ahead, told me the board had consulted their records. Families needed recreation, all that. I stayed calm. Diane, this property isn't and never has been part of the HOA. The deed predates. The neighborhood boundaries are clear. There's no legal obligation. She claimed her attorney had identified a community benefit clause. I said I'd like to see that in writing. She got cagey, ended the call quick. No ground conceded. That's when things got weird. Neighbors stopped waving. People who'd chat at the mailbox now crossed the street. Willa, one of the only neighbors I actually liked, texted to warn me that Diane was painting me as a selfish recluse in the group chat. The posts started piling up stuff about me hoarding resources and refusing reasonable requests. Comments ranged from polite support for Diane to flat-out silence. The pressure was on. Friday, I came down to the dock and found 5 people fishing like it was public property. I asked if they realized it was private. They said Diane told them it was open for community use. When I said no, I got a mouthful about how I should reconsider and that communities work when people cooperate. One of them even muttered that I was going to regret being so rigid. Yeah, because standing up for your rights is apparently antisocial. I installed security cameras, the kind you'd use to film a bear in a snowstorm. That night, as I sorted through old deeds and police report numbers, I realized this wasn't just a misunderstanding. It was a power play, and I was done playing defense. Soon enough, I got a formal invite, well, more like a summons to an HOA emergency meeting. I showed up folder in hand, and they'd set out a lone chair in front like I was on trial. Diane ran through neighborhood updates, then hit the big issue a resident me refused to share a valuable community resource. Comments started rolling in. People wanted access for the kids for the good old days when neighbors helped each other. No mention of property rights, not a word about boundaries. Diane just nodded along, feeding the narrative. When it was my turn, I laid out the facts, deeds, survey maps, tax records, you name it. Told them I'd show anyone the paperwork. Diane thanked me, said legal technicalities didn't erase moral responsibilities. She put it to a vote. Either I cooperate or face social exclusion, maybe even a county complaint for being uncooperative. The resolution passed. Willa and one old-timer voted no. Everyone else either supported Diane or stayed quiet. The next day, social media exploded. Save Our Lake Access popped up with photos of my marina and all sorts of wild accusations. People called me selfish, even posted an old photo from my portfolio with snark about nature photographers who hate sharing nature. Will tried to defend me in the comments. Diane blocked her in an hour. By the end of the week, someone cut the lock on my gate. When I walked down to the marina that morning, it looked like a public park, families everywhere, grilling, fishing, picnic blankets, coolers, the works. I told them they had to leave. One guy started recording, claiming I was threatening people. The cops showed up, checked my paperwork, told everyone to go. But the message was clear. Diane had gone from soft threats to full-on mob tactics. That Saturday it happened again, bigger this time. A full-blown community fishing day organized right on my property with banners, grills, 30-plus people, and Diane in the middle, clipboard in hand, directing traffic like it was her own backyard. I walked straight up to her deed in hand. She smacked it out of my grasp and started shouting that old paperwork doesn't change the reality of community needs. Her husband stepped in low voice, told me I was making enemies. The crowd closed in, watching like a pack. I called the cops again. This time, Deputy Caldwell came, reviewed my documentation, asked Diane for hers. All Diane had was a printout of some email, no attorney, no legal proof, nothing. The deputy told everyone they had to leave or face criminal trespass. Diane went red, yelling that this wasn't over, that I'd regret it. But people started to see through it. A few apologized on their way out. Caldwell told me to post clear signage and keep documenting everything. That's when I called Malcolm Hastings, a property lawyer who looked like he'd seen every fight there is. I showed him my evidence, 4K video, witness statements, every social media post. He said most clients show up with blurry cell phone footage. What I brought was airtight. Turns out the HOA bylaws didn't even allow for shared amenities outside HOA boundaries, and none of the law firms in the county had been hired by Diane or the board. In other words, she'd been bluffing from the start. Malcolm drafted a cease and desist letter, 10 pages, laying out every incident, every legal threat, every piece of evidence. He said we could sue for damages, press criminal charges, or settle privately, but whatever we did, we'd file a criminal complaint to make sure there was a record. I took his advice. Word got out. Willa texted me about an emergency board meeting. Suddenly, people started questioning Diane's story. The next regular HOA meeting was packed. I brought Malcolm a projector and the evidence. Diane tried to control the narrative, called me aggressive and retaliatory. Then I showed the deeds, the surveys, the video. Silence. Someone in the crowd finally piped up. If the attorney doesn't exist and the property isn't part of the HOA, then we've been misled. A board member motioned to remove Diane as president vote was nearly unanimous. After that, Diane had to read a full apology at the next meeting, admitting she lied, organized trespass, defamed me online, all of it. She had to pay my legal fees plus a licensing fee for using my photos and stay 500 feet from my property. Her husband's business lost clients. They became social pariahs. The DA filed trespass charges. She got community service. The neighborhood went quiet. Some folks apologized. Most kept their distance. I donated part of the settlement to a youth fishing program. Let's be honest, the irony was too good to pass up. The marina became mine again. Not because I won some big public victory, but because I held the line, documented everything, and refused to bend to mob pressure. Neighbors started asking permission if they wanted to fish. I said yes or no, as I pleased. The point wasn't keeping people out. It was about choice, control, and respect. I started work on a photo book, boundaries drawing from 20 years in the wild, plus this whole HOA mess. Turns out whether you're a wolf, an eagle, or just a guy with a dock holding your ground isn't about aggression. It's about dignity. So if you're listening to this thinking, what would I have done? Ask yourself, when does standing up for yourself turn into selfishness? Where's the line between community and control? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell me your worst boundary dispute or just where you're watching from. And if you ever find yourself on the receiving end of a clipboard-wielding neighbor, remember facts, law, and a few good photos go a long way. If you stuck around this long, share this story with someone who loves a good plot twist, because sometimes the real victory isn't the one that gets posted online. It's the peace you earn when you fight for what's yours and finally get it back.